day 21, and we're heading into a new year. Again, I don't like to say the date in these videos because I think any of these messages hopefully can apply to myself or anyone watching in the future, anytime, whether it's June, July, August, or the end of December. But today I do want to talk about it just quickly, that we're a couple days before the new year. It's December 30th, and just kind of where we're at in the year, a couple of these dates in the past week or so in these videos, it's kind of prompted where my head's been at and the message I want to talk about in these daily videos. So the theme today, I don't really have a quote for you, but the theme today is one that's really important. It should be important to everyone. It's keeping the promises that we make to ourselves, because we so often break promises and we have good intentions, but we say, hey, I'm going to start doing this new thing. I'm going to start, with all I've got. I'm going to make sure I get healthy. I'm going to make sure I go to the gym. I'm going to make sure that I start reading more. And again, because we're a couple days away from the new year, this topic's just been, on my mind and weighing heavy on me because so many people use January 1st as the start date to change their life and to try to do something that they know for a long time they probably already should have been doing anyways. And again, I think it's really important to notate you can anytime, whether it's May 15th, November, right before the holidays, anytime at all, make a decision to change your life for the better. But specifically on the topic today of keeping the promises that we make to ourselves and the importance of that, I was thinking about our friendships and the people outside of just ourselves that we have relationships with in our life. And the question I want to pose is how many days or weeks or months would a friendship last if every time that you asked that friend to hang out, about 60% of the time they declined, or even worse, about 60% of the time after they've already said yes, they end up ghosting you or not following through on that said commitment. If they did that 3 out of every 5 times, I have a feeling that you probably wouldn't ask them any more than that to hang out. You probably would dissolve your friendship because you would say that that person doesn't keep their word and they're not a good friend. Well, when you think about the relationship that we have with ourselves, you hear all this talk nowadays about, we have this negative self-image, or we don't view ourselves positively, and there's probably all these books and narratives as to why that may be the case. But to bluntly just kind of speak as to why that is, in my opinion, is we don't keep promises with ourselves. We are not a good friend to ourselves. And what I've really, really strived to do this year and heading into next year is anything that I say I'm going to do, I'm going to absolutely sign the contract with myself to say, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and it's going to be well thought out. I don't think anything on a whim, if it's a big commitment or a big life change, it should be made in just 2 seconds. Maybe there's a reason or scenario for that, but for me, it's hey, I'm gonna plan this out, and then I'm gonna execute it. And then when I commit to, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, I'm going to sign the contract with myself to say, this is a promise. I have to be a good friend to myself. This is a promise that I'm going to keep. And I just wonder if we did that more often, if we were a good friend to ourselves by keeping the promises, by signing our name on the dotted line and following through, very good and well knowing that we're going to be uncomfortable. Any life change is uncomfortable. If you're going to read every single day and you haven't read, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you're going to go to the gym, you're going to feel really weak and sore the first month that you do it. Eating well, you're going to have all these involuntary temptations of grabbing the chocolate or going to the fridge and getting what you used to get. And it's just that rewiring of your brain. But if you're going to make that goal and that promise to yourself, follow through with it, and then let that marinate for some months and really see what that does to your self-image, see what it does to your confidence, and see what it does to the impact and the light that you then pass along to others, because you're going to be a person that now you can, you just become more honest. You can be that person that you have executed the promises that you've made to yourself. So there's some verses in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, and I'm just going to read verses 4 through 7 that talk about the promises that we make. It says in verse 4, when you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest the temple messenger. My vow was a mistake. Why should God be angry at you, at what you say, and destroy the work of your hands? Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God. That last couple sentences there, much dreaming and many words are meaningless. I'll start with that one. You dive into this stuff, and then like all these dots start to kind of be connected in your mind. And that's one thing that really stuck out to me, is like, maybe that's why when we say, hey, less words, just don't be all talk, but just be action, like be more about the action. I think that's exactly what the Bible's pointing to there, is like a lot of people, they have all these big plans, they tell everyone about it, and then they're getting that same kind of dopamine hit in their mind of like, they actually don't have to do the thing now because they got so excited talking about it that now it's like they're good, then they can delay and make excuses and then get around to doing that thing, months later, and then they never get around to doing it. But it's like, hey, what if we, it's great to dream and it's great to have these goals, but what if we were more about just doing them and letting our progress of our work, whether that's reading books and becoming more knowledgeable, or whether that's eating healthy and losing weight, or whether that's diving into the Bible and becoming more spiritually sound, like doing those things and then letting the good fruits of that action again kind of take over. If we talk about it, a lot of times that can just be a delay of actually doing the thing. And then lastly, in that line there, it says, therefore fear God. I almost wonder, like, if we had a little bit more reverence for God in our lives, if we would run a tighter ship with ourselves. Hey, I'm going to make this promise to myself. If you feel like life's meaningless, or if you feel like, you kind of get down and start playing victim, then you're going to have that more of a nature to break promises to yourself. So just fearing God and taking yourself seriously when it comes to trying to optimize, like follow through on that, have the reverence for God. And as it says earlier in those verses, fulfill your vow. If you aren't actually going to commit to something, might as well be honest with yourself and not even make that vow. And lastly, like, just to reiterate, you're going to have trials and discomfort when doing something new, especially when it's like elevating into the person that God's created you to be. It's going to be uncomfortable. And just to reiterate the verse I talked about, I think like a week ago in James, talks about consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So it's going to be difficult, and it's going to suck at times, and you're going to be tired and angry and all these human emotions throughout the process of trying to optimize and to fulfill those promises that you make, that are good for you. Go ahead and know it's going to be difficult, and really try to rewire your mind to consider it joy, pure joy, when you hit that discomfort along that journey. So keep promises to yourself. It's going to make you a better friend to yourself. It's going to change your self-outlook and see what it does for your life. And that's day 21.